Welcome to Postcards, a brief look at people, places, the arts and curiosities from around the world. On today's program, trains, from vintage life-size at the York Museum to miniature models on sale via the net at Christie's. Ancient Egyptian history at the little-known Petrie Museum. Saving historic picture palaces. Yehudi Menuhin remembered through his school for the musically gifted. An African penguin chicks being raised at the Bristol Zoo in England. But first up, Britain's National Railway Museum at York houses one of the finest collections of its kind in the world. And it's a collection that has expanded enormously since the museum opened 25 years ago. To meet that demand for space, a new multi-million-pound wing has been added. It's been called The Works and provides several new and unique galleries. From the vantage point of the workshop balcony, visitors can for the first time see large-scale conservation as it happens. The York Museum made a virtue out of necessity when its old workshop building was condemned. Now it's possible to watch engineers and craftsmen working on magnificent vehicles in their care. In the warehouse, some 5,000 items of railway history are on display for the first time. A veritable Aladdin's cave of objects and artefacts that would normally be packed away out of sight. If there's a highlight of the warehouse, it's what could be the world's largest collection of model railway vehicles ever made by one person. It's a Lilliputian version of the entire stock of a 1920s British railway company, the London and North Western Railway, a unique snapshot of everything from the most powerful locomotive to the narrow gauge hoppers which carried coal. It was built by the late Jim Richards, a former engineer who bequeathed his life's work to the nation. Curator David Wright explained that everything Richards made, from the wheels and axles to the seats and bodies, was done from his personal research and experience. In his youth, Richards was a constant visitor to railway stations and made records that were so accurate that he was actually able to say exactly which carriage was in which train at what time on which date. The collection has yet to be valued, but it's reckoned to be worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. The museum believes it deserves a place in the Guinness Book of Records, both for its size and for the fine workmanship. And for model train enthusiasts wanting to add to their own collections, the annual Trains Galore auction at Christie's is a red-letter date on the calendar. An opportunity to bid for a mix of locomotives, carriages, wagons, signals and stations from famous makers like Hornby and the German company Marklin. The Marklin model of Leipzig station, built in 1925, is in the best condition ever to be seen at Christie's and is expected to fetch around $5,600 US. This rare 1936 Bassett Lark model of the electronic locomotive Princess Royal is the first really big locomotive the company made. It's being sold by its original owner and could also reach $5,600 US. This sale is a first for Christie's in that it's the first to include real-time bidding over the internet, a service that could attract new buyers and also push up prices. Train enthusiasts sitting at their computer screens can view the lots, follow the sale and place bids as well as anyone else in the sale room.
So £1,350 offered here, $1,350 with the internet bidders through the auction channel here at $1,350, $1,400.
Bidding on the internet should prove to be more attractive than over the phone. A prospective buyer can watch the auction and be in a similar position to someone standing in the room. The star of this memorable show is an extremely rare Schöne 111 spirit-fired steam train from the turn of the century, expected to fetch around $24,000 US. But for those with just a few hundred to spend, these Hornby collector's items could make some young train lovers very happy indeed. Tucked away in a back street in central London is a little-known treasure house of ancient Egyptian history. The Petrie Museum is a unique collection of artefacts spanning the whole history of the ancient Egyptian civilization, from prehistoric times through the Pharaonic era to Roman and Islamic culture. Most objects were excavated in Egypt and were meticulously classified by Flinders Petrie, dubbed the father of scientific archaeology. Petrie excavated not just the familiar royal tombs, but ordinary sites, like the towns where the pyramid builders lived. The curators are keen to make these treasures known to an audience beyond the confines of university academics. It looked like just a bundle of rags when it was found, but this 5,000-year-old garment lays claim to being the oldest dress in the world. The seams and pleats can still be seen. Modern researchers used sculptures and tomb paintings as guides to painstakingly rethread the beads and shells that originally formed this dancing dress for a child 4 millennia ago. The object on the right for decades foxed the best brains in archaeology, including Petrie himself. It took some contemporary local knowledge to reveal that it was a rat trap. The shape had hardly changed in thousands of years. Petrie had found it in the pyramid builder's town Kahun. The museum then had a replica made and found that it actually worked. The children had a good time working out such puzzles and imagining life for their contemporaries 3,000 and more years ago. It shows that with a little thought, this collection of unfamiliar objects can spark the imagination of even young children and bring the distant past alive. Going to the cinema has for decades made up an important part of British culture. But now many of the historic picture palaces are under threat as developers favour more modern buildings. Fighting back, English Heritage has now launched a campaign to save many of the buildings. They're calling on members of the public to let them know what cinema buildings they believe should be saved. A publication called Picture Palaces was produced to remind people what beautiful buildings they are. The first was built in 1901 and the last one 50 years later. This is one of Britain's most spectacular picture palaces. It's now a bingo hall, but under changes proposed by English Heritage, it will be upgraded to the Grade 1 listed building, making it England's first Grade 1 listed cinema and protect it from being demolished. At least another 30 buildings are still under threat, and English Heritage is relying on the public to ensure they are saved. They will also be speaking to local authorities and business owners to see what more can be done to stop historic buildings being demolished. One reason English Heritage believes London is such a big tourist attraction is because it remains so historic. Fortunately, 100 years ago, someone had the wisdom to start making sure important buildings weren't knocked down or scrapped to accommodate a new office block or skyscraper. Sensitively adapted for modern expectations, English Heritage believes they can save enough cinemas to keep the country's love affair for cinema alive for many more years to come. It's a year since the world's great violinist Yehudi Menuhin died, but his music and vision lingers here in the English countryside. This is the Yehudi Menuhin School, founded in 1963 by Lord Menuhin for musically gifted children from all over the world. Here, young musicians can pursue their love of music, develop their potential, and achieve the highest performance levels on the piano and stringed instruments. 12-year-old Nicola Benedetti performs Wieniawski's Grand Polonaise in D major in the recital room during one of the school's twice-weekly lunchtime concerts. Later this month, she'll perform this piece in concert before the Princess Royal in Edinburgh. 3 teenagers perform Haydn's Gypsy Rondo Trio. Regular school concerts give the students an opportunity to perform in front of family, friends and staff before taking their work to festivals and concert halls around the world. This is where former pupils Tamsin Little and Nigel Kennedy mastered the violin. There are 58 children, aged 8 to 18, currently attending the school. All British children are given an aided place, and scholarships and help is made available to international pupils. These are special needs children. Their abnormality in the normal school environment becomes the normality in this one. The music focus of the school is particularly appreciated by pupils who have struggled to keep up music studies in an ordinary academic environment, fitting in extra time for practice and concerts, often clashing with the demands of academic studies.
push on the first finger on the up bows, yeah?
At least half of each day is devoted to music. Students have at least 2 one-hour lessons each week on their first instrument and at least half an hour on their second study instrument. And there's supervised practice. The pupils also learn composition and take part in composing workshops. Since the school was founded, the teachers have always been performing musicians. The current crop of pupils comes from all around the world, from China, Norway, Japan and Iceland, from Austria, the USA, Tunisia, Bulgaria and Holland, and from France, Russia, Sweden, Romania, the Czech Republic and Korea. The school tries to create a family-like atmosphere for them all. Students sleep in either single or shared rooms, packed with the usual teenage clutter, as well as pianos and other instruments. They also double up as practice rooms. The students are cared for by a house mother and house father, as well as a matron and a doctor. This group of 9 to 11-year-olds is studying maths. All pupils are taught mathematics, English and other core curriculum subjects. Because the classes are so small, the students receive virtually individual attention, which can mean the class races through the syllabus much faster than in state-run schools. Since the death of Lord Menuhin on March the 12th, 1999, the school had learned to stand on its own feet. It has come of age. The last year has seen many pupils and former pupils taking part in concerts and services in memory of their founder. Now the school is looking forward to the future with a new president, Mitislav Rostropovich. With him come new directions and new influences. One of those is a celebrated soloist, Tamsin Little, a former pupil, who has been invited to give a masterclass.
Still not very frightening. Bell-like sound. And when you play this, can you put the pedal down?
Tamsin was a pupil at the school from 1973 to 1983. Her first task in the masterclass is to help 10-year-old Adelia Mislov. From maths class to masterclass, all in a day for a pupil at the Yehudi Menuhin School.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Then 16-year-old Julia Maley swapped her bedroom mirror for the recital room and the critical eye of Tamsin Little, performing the Broche Concerto in G minor. Here, on the eastern fringe of Hertfordshire, is a gateway to some of Britain's biggest farms. From here to the east coast, sprawling arable farms serve the hungry bakeries and produce shelves of a nation. Farming is intensive, high yields are priority. But a high ecological price is being paid for this relentless pursuit of profit. Some of Britain's traditional bird life is on the edge of extinction, its habitat levelled to make way for more crops. Even the policy of subsidising farmers to set aside their land to suspend crop growing for a time has not halted the wildlife decline. Farmers have still been able to cash in on industrial crops like rape. Edward Darling, though, seems to have discovered the formula for economic success and an effective conservation program. It's an initiative that's earned for the Royston farmer this year's Game and Conservation Award, given by the gunmakers Purdy. Through an innovative use of set-aside, Darling has been using 250 acres of his arable farm as a trial site over the past 5 years in order to revive wild partridge populations. With the special approval of the government, he has incorporated 20-metre wide headlands of cover with specially seeded 40-metre sanctuary strips in the centre of most fields. A 3-year hedge cutting cycle, a replanting program for woodland and special control of predators like foxes are also blended into Edward Darling's award-winning project. All serve to provide improved cover and sources of food, and have resulted in substantial increases in wild partridge numbers, as well as benefiting many other bird and animal populations. Darling is passionate about what he's doing here. He believes it's a privilege to be occupying land and is aware of the responsibilities that go with it. While many farmers might share Edward Darling's environmental ideal, few would reckon to make the arithmetic work. The owner of Gray's Farm at Royston will be hoping to demonstrate to them that wild birds and wary bank managers can both be accommodated. From birds of the plain to exotic coastal penguins of South Africa. Bristol Zoo Gardens are renowned for their conservation and breeding programs. One of its most adventurous new additions is its $3.2 million US seal and penguin section, where visitors can see the marine mammals virtually in their natural element. There are 3 species of penguin here, including African penguins, seriously under threat in the wild. With developments, the African penguins here are part of a European coordinated breeding effort. With development around the coast of South Africa, the penguins are losing their nesting sites on various islands. Egg collection has been a major problem in the past, with vast numbers being taken as a food source. Oil pollution has also had a major effect on African penguins. Whilst getting covered in oil destroys their waterproofing and insulation, ingesting it poisons them. A recent success for the conservation program has been these 2 African penguin chicks, currently being hand-reared by Bristol keepers. The penguins hatched after 38 days in an incubator. They'd been rejected by their parents. The chicks are now being fed on small fish, like sprats. Although they still have juvenile feathers, they're nearly full size. More eggs are being incubated at the moment, 2 by several pairs of African penguins and 2 more in an incubator. It's a process helped along by this electronic telemetry egg placed in the penguin's nest. It monitors their turning, temperature and humidity and sends the data to a computer for logging. Keepers look at natural incubation under the parent and then try to mirror it in an artificial environment. More chicks are expected to hatch over the next few weeks, part of a growing population of African penguins bred in captivity. Bristol Zoo hopes the attention they attract will help to raise public awareness about their plight. Good weather for ducks today on the shores of the Thames, but these former military amphibious vehicles have been rechristened frogs for their new civilian life as the latest tourist attraction. Launching London frog tours with a splash were 2 celebrities accustomed to a very different kind of vehicle. British Formula One newcomer Jenson Button and veteran Grand Prix driver Stirling Moss. They took the first set of tourists, nautical school students, on the company's maiden voyage. The tour starts on the river's south bank, driving through Parliament Square and Whitehall to see some of London's most famous sights. The craft will then drive into the Thames and sail downstream to get a fabulous look at St Paul's Cathedral, among other attractions. Operators say the 80-minute land and water tour will bring the focus back to the importance of the Thames. The company has acquired 32 former ducks from private collectors. The British Army stopped using the vehicles in 1972, but they were originally built for the D-Day landings of World War II. Some 21,000 were built from 1942. It was anticipated that they would be sunk or destroyed shortly after their mission. The Mistress quickly saw active service on the beaches of Normandy, and while she's a worthy rivercraft more than 50 years old, her lifespan was originally estimated to be between only 75 hours and 30 days. Senior engineer Derek Edwards says she drives like a bus or truck on land and a tug on water. On entering the water, the propeller shaft is activated and a rudder at the aft end comes into play. Leaving the water, they're disabled and in drive mode once more. The first passengers found the experience an exhilarating adventure. The Frog Tours look set to be a hit, with some 250,000 advance bookings already taken. The late Diana, Princess of Wales, was renowned for bringing colour and sparkle to social occasions. Now a flower bearing her name is to go on sale. Before her untimely death in 1997, the Princess chose this variety of pink dahlia to bear her name. At the time of her death, the flower had already bloomed. It was further developed, and from this spring, gardeners will be able to buy seeds of the pink cactus dahlia for the first time. The Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund has endorsed the scheme, and up to 10% of the purchase price of the flower will go to charity. Diana devoted herself to charitable works in the years before her death, whether in comforting the sick or in campaigning to end the use of landmines, which kill and maim the poorest and most vulnerable. The flower and seed selling scheme should help this work continue and provide a living and perpetual memorial to the Princess's life. And that's all for today. Join us again next time for a postcard look at interesting people, places and the arts.